So this is a video for all my white European brothers and sisters who claim to be Christian, and they do have a form of godliness, but they deny the power thereof, right? Because no matter how much you break it down and show evidence, they want to hold on to a Marxist worldview that has found its way into Christianity, right? For example, verses like in 1 Peter, but you are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood. This is not what Peter wrote. The Greek is not talking about the generation. Otherwise, only the people in the first century were that chosen generation. The word in Greek means race. You are a chosen race. Chosen to do what? Chosen to build God's kingdom. To have that kingdom inside of them, right? Be kings and priests, right? So many Christians still believe that these people in the Middle East are God's chosen people. And then you make video after video, you provide evidence. They don't even want to look at it. That's how addicted they are to this Babylonian Christianity. They are totally addicted. And I spent so many time and years breaking things down, posting evidence also on Facebook. And then you see some of them, even after years, still contradicting me, still trying to correct me. You have to have a love for the truth. Is the love for the truth in you? Because your European nations that were built through the Spirit of Christ in us, because all things are created by and for Him, right? You are losing it. You are losing everything. We have strange people with strange gods, strange customs, strange traditions, strange ideologies coming in. And you don't care because you think that Jesus loves everybody, right? We spend millions and millions of dollars sending missionaries into Africa and into India. These people are not called. The gospel is not for them. The gospel means that it was the gospel of reconciliation. And if no pastor teaches you this, no church teaches you this, but the northern house of the kingdom of Israel was divorced. They became lost, but according to prophecy they would be called the sons of God again. They would be reconciled. This is what Jesus came to do. Jesus didn't come to save the entire world from hell. No, Jesus came to reconcile the lost tribes of the house of Israel and unite them together with the tribes who were left in Judah. They were both brought into the new covenant. They were both saved by grace through faith. That's why the European nations became Christian nations, right? So why don't you at least want to study this out? People, not me, also friends of mine, they keep telling you and explaining to you the false translations of the Freemasonic Bibles you read. Yes, even King James is a Freemason. Freemasons stand for humanism. God did not stand for humanism or human rights. God stood for His people, who through faith would be called the sons of God. Now, if you're a Christian and you think you can go into Zimbabwe or Rwanda, tell them believe in Jesus, and if they say, I believe in Jesus, and you're going to call them brother, they're not your brothers. They are not called by His name. And if you think people of other races can be equal to you as a son of God, you don't realize that you are an actual son of God. Because races, and even we, do not choose to be God's Israel. We do not choose to be called sons of God. Yes, we choose to follow Jesus, right? But you cannot choose to be a chosen race, because God is the one who did the choosing. But Satan has taken away 99% of you Christians, whether you're Baptist or Catholic or Pentecostal or even non-denominational. Satan has deceived all of you, so that you think that being a son of God is just a concept in your mind, right? And if you go to Rwanda, you tell them to believe in Jesus. Now they are your brothers. No, they are not your brothers. I'm not talking about that you have to mistreat anyone, but it is time that you start to accept your inheritance. Realize who you are. Adam was not the first man. Adam was formed 6,000 years ago, and if you still believe that this entire world is created 6,000 years ago, you still have some study to do, because there have been settlements and excavations that date back much older than 6,000 years ago. Of course there were already people on this earth before God created or formed Adam 6,000 years ago, right? That's why the Bible is so specific about the genealogy that came from Adam, right? He even tells us who the enemies are, right? The genealogy that comes from Cain, and the genealogy that came through Seth, because Cain killed Abel, right? So we praise him with Seth. So you have two lines, the enemy line and Seth's line. But Seth's line remained pure. He remained in the image of God, right? And Noah was perfect in his race, in his descendants, in his genealogy. He came from Adam, and he did not mix himself up with the sons of Cain or any other humanoid that wandered this earth, right? And the sons of Noah, they were not a Negro and a Chinese man and a Caucasian. That is nonsense. That is only born out of politically correctness, that whole idea. Of course Noah did not have three races as sons. These are all the same sons. Japheth, Shem, right, and Ham. And these were in that biblical world. They were together building the Tower of Babel, right? But God stopped it. He scattered them. He confused their languages. And now nations like Babylon, Assyria, Canaan, right? Egypt, right? Ethiopia. Yeah, Ethiopia was still white. All these nations were formed through the sons of Noah. And from all these people was one man who came from Shem, and he lived in Babylon. That was Abraham. And God was going to establish a nation and a multitude of nations from the seed of Abraham. The literal loins of Abraham would come a nation and a multitude of nations, right? So that happened. Where are all these nations? Right? Jesus explained us, if you believe in him and do the will of the Father, then you are Abraham's seed. Right? Now, there were other people who claimed to be from Abraham, like Ishmael, right? And Esau. But Esau mixed himself with Canaanites, right? Hittites were Canaanites, all kinds of Canaanites. He mixed himself with Ishmaelites, and eventually also mixed himself with other races. But still they claimed, well, we also came from Abraham. And Abraham said, no, you are not of your father Abraham. You are of your father the devil. And the lust of your father ye do. Because he was a liar and a murderer from the beginning. You cannot hear my words because you are not of God. Jesus didn't say, you don't believe me because you don't believe. He said, you don't believe me because you are not of God. So there are people in this world who are not of God. And the gospel was not meant for them. The gospel was meant for the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judah, who split. They got into a war. The northern kingdom was taken away by Assyria. The southern kingdom was taken away into Babylon. But when the Persians overtook Babylon and brought the remaining Israelites back to Judah, the northern 10 tribes were still lost. Right? Jesus said, I came to reconcile them. In order to be reconciled, you first had to be in a relationship, in a covenant. Only Israel was ever in a covenant. Right? But in Judah, where they still kept the law, that's why there is a difference between circumcised and uncircumcised, because the lost tribes no longer had the law, they did no longer circumcise themselves. There was a difference. Nothing to do with race. Right? But in Judah, right, in 125 before Christ, they, just like we do now, what you do now also, most Christians, is to bring Canaanites and Edomites, the enemies of God, into Judah, circumcise them, and bring them in your Hebrew religion. And before they knew it, those Edomites took control, right? Political games with the Romans, so they got control. So the king of Judah became Herod, King Herod. He was an Edomite. And the king installed Edomite Pharisees. That's why Jesus rebuked them. He said, you are not of my sheep. There are people here who are not of my fold. Right? People tell me, yeah, Chris, you're only spreading division. Jesus said, I did not come to bring peace. I come to divide the sheep from the goats. Right? These fake Israelites were goats. Real Israelites were a sheep. Jesus said, my sheep hear my voice. Right? The gospel went to the Jew first, the King James says, and then to the Gentile. That's not what the Greek's talking about. The gospel went to Judah first, where the Israelites, remaining Israelites, were who kept the law, and then to the nations, the ethnos. That literally means nations of the same kind of people, the lost tribes. Right? According to prophecy, the two sticks would become one again. Nothing to do with Jews and non-Jews. Right? Because Jews are not Israelites. Jews are the Judeans who were not Israelites, who did not hear the voice of Jesus. Right? These became the Jews. Right? And even in the Jewish encyclopedia, they admit themselves that the Jews only started to identify as true Israelites in 1860. Right? And they have deceived you. They are the adversary, right? What we call Satan. Satan just means adversary, right? But Judah and Jacob, I should say, he remained pure descendant of Adam. Esau didn't care. He just wanted to gather as much peoples and ideologies, right, and gods and races to fight Jacob, right? And it's happening again. Esau is bringing in all kinds of races and ideologies and gods into our nations. And you accept it because you believe the lies, right? So after all these years that I break it down for you, and you still make posts, try to refute me, that means you still don't realize that you are a true son or a true daughter of God, right? To most Christians, it doesn't really mean anything, right? Oh, I believe now I'm a son of God. You're the real thing. Yes, Jesus, it says, the only begotten, right? Also, Isaac was the only begotten, the most beloved son of Abraham, but he had another son too, Ishmael, right? Jesus is not the only son of God, right? Jesus said, I was dead, I live forevermore. He is the first begotten of the dead. The first one. He called you his brother. And if you are Jesus' brother, that means you're also a son of God. So Whitey, European, wake up. Because the inheritance, the birthright, and the dominion mandate was given to Jacob, that's you. But you are now freely giving it away to the enemy. That's why the Western nations are in decline. That's why in a few decades you will be a minority and other gods and other races will dominate you in your own nations, right? But your hippie Jesus idea, think that's a cool thing to do, right? Because we are so lovey-dovey, right? Right? If you don't like the fact that we are a chosen race, like First Peter said, you don't like that, you have to take it up with God, because God did this, right? So accept who you are. God bless.